This is SciByte, episode 64 for September 25th, 2012. Hi everyone, and welcome to SciByte, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly science podcast, fresh every Wednesday over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our host, Heather. Hey there, Heather.
Hey there, Chris.
Hey, Heather, happy science to you.
Happy science.
So what are we talking about this week?
This week, we're going to take a look at house calls for ear infections, Ig-Nobel awards, distant galaxies, UK's fireball, updates on the Jupiter impact, Bull Stratos, the Shuttle Endeavour, the Alcubierre warp drive, curiosity updates, and as always, take a peek back into history and up in the sky this week.
Well, I have a young one that suffers from earaches, and I love me some warp drive, Heather, so what do you say we do our first news story? All right, what is the first story?
Alrighty, earaches. They are all over the place when you were a kid. There is now going to be an iPhone attachment designed for at-home diagnosis of ear infections. I am serious.
This is interesting. So how can you diagnose an ear infection with an iPhone?
So you yourself, you're not actually going to be diagnosing. Mom and Dad, no. What you do is it's like, they have the otoscope, that they put in your ear and they look at inside your eardrum. So they have an attachment on the iPhone that leads into the camera.
Okay.
And uses the flash for a light. So essentially you're using the iPhone to kind of aim it, to take a picture of your child's eardrum. Okay. And then that can be sent to your doctor.
So it's sort of like a remote diagnosis utility.
Yeah, so you can have pictures or video. And the upside of this is that you can do it over a couple days. You're into the doctor. You wait a couple days. They see your kid, yanking on his ear and screaming, and they look at it. Yep, that's red. Here, have some antibiotics. Now, there are some that kind of heal on their own. It just takes a couple extra days, but who knows when the doc's going to be able to see you again. So they kind of play on the safe side, which is understandable. But if you have this, you can actually, take a picture today, take a picture tomorrow, sort of watch it over the course of a few days. And then the doctor can look at that and say, okay, yes, though this is getting more serious, come on in, or give it a few more days. I bet it'll clear up, take some, antihistamines or something.
So they must have some sort of app that the customer gets along with the hardware. Okay. And then they send it off to a certain kind of doctor who must have some sort of console that downloads all the different patient results, and then he goes through a review process, looks at the images, probably pulls up the patient records, and looks at that, and then makes some sort of diagnosis, and then sends them back the result.
Yeah, well, this is in the very planning stages. That's not even it's sort of a singular trial at one hospital. There's none of these have clinically tried to go home, but in theory, you could have this sort of thing, and you could just send it to your doctor.
I wonder what else you could do. It seems like an ear infection is just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
Now, this specifically caught my attention because I had severe problems growing up, some minor ear surgeries, and still to this day I have to watch very carefully because of, ear infections. And, this kind of thing is where it's kind of nice because you can sit at home and have the, now.
Well, I really like the tracking the progress thing.
Yeah, now Dylan's watching Thomas the Train while you're peeking at his ear instead of he's being in the doctor's office,
which is
glaring
way easier
and screaming.
To manage. Yeah, way easier to just get taken care of and manage. And as a parent, I'm always wondering, like, gosh, is this getting worse? Do we need to go back in? And it's hard to make that judgment call. When is the appropriate time to go back into the doctor's office? Yeah. Whereas with this, if I could just get, here it is, and you got to figure it's going to lead to better patient diagnosis too if the doctor can see it over a period of time. It's more data.
Yeah, and in addition to that, there have actually been schools that have said, hey, medical students, this would be great because the doctor can literally point at a person's ear as they're going and say, point at it and see this and this, And so it's not just like, let me look in and now you look in. You can actually point to what part, that this is indicating trouble or this indicates give it a few days.
Yeah. Huh.
So it can be used for teaching. It can be used for this kind of, over time, as you were saying. And
what's interesting is the imaging sensors on these smartphones are actually probably better than some of the equipment that doctors have, like with cameras on. I mean, we're getting really high resolution cameras now. We're talking 8 megapixels on the latest generation stuff.
Yeah, and it's so not only. I mean, you can keep an eye on you. The doctor can, maybe you won't get so parents won't have to be worried about so over medicating. I've had, where I couldn't beat an infection. It would come back and it would go and come back. And then eventually I got up to strong enough stuff. They're like, all right, your next trip is to the ER because we can't give you anything stronger that's not on an IV.
Wow, these smartphones are going to turn into tricorders.
Yeah, we're certainly getting there.
Yeah.
Now, currently it is a clinical trial in a specific hospital. An Emory student at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta.
Okay.
Right now what they're doing is they go up to parents with, for a kid with an ear infection, say, hey, do you mind, this being done too? So they go and they take the picture and the doctor looks at it.
You think, hey, I know how you like your iPhone and you like your kid. What if we combine the two?
Yeah. So it's like, so then they do simultaneous. They have the doctor look at something and then they have, the iPhone something, and then that's going to go in front. Those trials are going to go in front of a panel of doctors, and then they're going to be able to say, yes, this worked to a certain degree that we are happy with it, or no, it needs to, go on and do something else. It was funny. I believe one of the students said that he found it kind of off-putting, like surprising, because every single one of the parents who saw it said, where can I get one?
Yeah, well, it's great as a parenting tool.
Yeah.
It's like the modern day age of the thermometer.
Yeah. I mean, depending on the cost. Okay, so maybe you only get it, if you have a couple of kids or one kid that likes to, catch all the colds in the world, then may someday do a future science show. But, but it is an interesting tool because they're like, I was surprised that all of the parents were like, where can I get this?
Huh.
Give me, please.
Yeah.
And so, they talk to the doctors, they ask the parents. It's actually all being funded partially through the FDA. Interesting.
What else I find is this whole line of thinking about using these incredibly powerful computational devices, but that are also data connected.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about the tools that gives just a doctor. Not even like just Joe Consumer, but if you could equip a doctor in Africa, or if you could equip a doctor on the emergency scene who could connect things to his smartphone and be able to determine more about a person, and then send that data back, or imagine the ambulance driver and people that come out, maybe they could collect data on their smartphones and have that back at the hospital, so the hospital has clear information about what's coming in and can already be prepared by the time they arrive.
Yeah, this is getting closer and closer. I had a coworker years ago who had extended family in Chile in South America, and it was kind of remote, and they were able to take a MRI of one of the kids' heads, and they had a small, what looked like a tumor. And so they had all the prints, and they're like, okay, well, they say they need to operate right now, but we're not sure. So they, stuff it all on an envelope, try to, cross all the borders and customs and everything to try to get it up here to have, doctors in Denver, Colorado, children's hospital specialists look at it and say, okay, but the speed of it couldn't match up to what was needed. And if in this kind of a case, you have the instant technology on all the smartphones where it's, click, send it to here, and it is instantaneous. And there are some, I'm pretty sure there are some third world, doctors, these remote locations we're hearing more and more about, ways that they can take care on the scene and be able to talk to people, to specialists across the world.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe there may be, a handful of doctors that specialize in these specific rare conditions. Now you're over in Nova Scotia and you have a rare condition. I'm just pulling it out of my hat, Nova Scotia, sorry. And so now you have access to this, doctor. Maybe he needs something that these smartphones can give you.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I had this, I had a client who was one of the top neurosurgeons in the United States, and
Oh, wow.
He was in such demand that he was part of an early pilot program to use video conferencing to do remote diagnosis, and he was part of early. He was also part of early like remote patient record accessibility, and he was even part of early remote robotic surgery equipment. And this was really right when the iPhone had just been announced, and the Android devices were just announced, and their capabilities weren't really quite understood, and so they were looking at these video systems just so that way he could see the patient and get a good high resolution imagery of what was going on. And it was like a $2,000 unit on each end, and then a multi-$100 contract to service it all the time every month, and all of that seems like it could go away with a good reliable smartphone. And you combine these tools with the data now. I was testing LTE in my local neighborhood, and I'm getting 22 megabits speed. So you could actually do, and 16 that's download and 16 megabits upload, and you can do real time video stuff with that, and it would be huge for this kind of stuff. Combine that with what they're doing here, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is just regular iPhone stuff. I don't know why they would, but what happens if, they decided to go like iPhone Doctor iPhone. So then they have these specifically ones that are, maybe have, a port for, extra attachments so that you can have, doctors or specifically, a higher class of technology people that specifically need these kind of things where, this hospital has it, and like the Pro line, like now, they have like regular computers, like Apple does. They have regular computers, and then they have their Pro line that cost a lot. You could have a Pro line of these mobile devices. And honestly, you'll probably see this more in the Android marketplace because they already have Android devices that have standard USB ports and, expansion slots that will take devices. So while they're writing their stuff around the iPhone, the reality is like if the things like the Android devices out there are a little more open, are probably more likely to see more direct hardware medical use and all those kinds of things. But what I love about this approach is it's taking something that we already all have, right? It's not a new theoretical piece of hardware that has to be created. It's something that most people, a lot of people, not Heather, but a lot of people have in their pocket. Yeah. So, it's that, and then so you have one extra piece of equipment, and then small, whatever app to send it to your doctor.
Yeah. And then you have a medical tricorder, like the chat room says. Medical tricorder.
One step closer.
It's really something. That is really something. Well, any other thoughts on that one?
I'm looking forward to see where this goes, and like you said, other techniques
just the start,
and how much.
Right?
Yeah, just the start, and how much closer to tricorder our phones getting.
Right, and you think about it. The benchmarks on the current generation of iPhone and iPhone 5 and the Samsung Galaxy S3, they put them at performing at those benchmarks that the highest end desktops in 2005 performed at. So the top end smartphones are now performing at what our highest end computers performed at in certain benchmarks, and that trend is just continuing. So we're just at the tip of the iceberg here. Pretty cool. Yeah. Well, all right then. Why don't we take a quick moment now? Everybody here on this here podcast probably knows that one of the things I like to mention is that Jupiter Broadcasting and shows like SciByte are funded by our audience. I think that's something probably people are pretty familiar with, and we've got those affiliate links at the bottom of our website. And Netflix has been asking me to mention Netflix. They said we had some people that were really clicking on that for a while, but then everybody dropped off because I kind of stopped mentioning it because they don't support Linux. And I told them as such. I was like, "Look, you guys don't support Linux. There's only so much I can do. But if you're going to get it for somebody either for yourself or somebody for the holidays, maybe consider clicking on Netflix down there because we get a good little kickback from that. And all the affiliates down there are great. They're ones that we've all handpicked and we use ourselves. We've also got the browser extensions that you can install in your browser, and it'll just tag it for any of the sites that are members of our affiliates, and those are even ones that aren't even linked down there. We have more, and we're always adding features to that. So that's always something to check out too, like whitelisting. So if you want to give affiliate credit to some other people when you visit certain sites, maybe you have some other network or DuckDuckGo you want to support. That kind of stuff's being added always to the extension, so it kind of gives you more flexibility if you go that route. Now, Heather always likes to make a few really great picks when we get to this section of the show. And Heather, the first one you put in here because it's released today, and we've been talking about it for a little bit, is The Avengers. Yes. You haven't seen this yet?
No, because it came out today, and I put science over The Avengers, guys.
I'm
a trooper.
A trooper. You are a trooper. And it's a fun movie. It's a lot of fun. It's I went and saw it in the theater, and I don't regret that at all. I only saw a few movies in the theater this summer. This is one of them, and this is also one of those where it's like if you have a Blu-ray player, it looks great on DVD, of course. Yeah. But if you have a Blu-ray player, this is one of those movies that reminds you why you have a Blu-ray player. It really is. It's going to be gorgeous. Now, though, if that's not enough science for you, if you're like, okay, guys, that's cool, but superheroes, I like me the science. Well, maybe we could reminisce about the space shuttle, celebrating 30 years of NASA's first space plane. This is a pretty book, right, Heather?
Yes. That one is just loads of just gorgeous pictures throughout the program of the space shuttle, kind of what led up to it during the program. So I kind of saw that and it was like really nice to kind of look at.
Totally. So that'd be a great one. And the other one that Heather has in here, which looks really great, Final Countdown, NASA and the End of the Space Shuttle Program. Now this is that
one's more of a serious read. So they're kind of good bookends.
A great deal, though. Yeah, on Kindle, $9.99 on Kindle.
Yeah, so can't beat it. And you got the two ends. You got a whole bunch of knowledge and in-depth information, or kind of the vague, the skimmed version, but loads of beautiful things to look at.
Yeah, so check that out. We'll have links to that in the show notes. If you use those links that we've placed on the show notes, then a portion of your shopping session, just like our other affiliates, goes to Jupiter Broadcasting. And the nice thing about that is, while we do support donations directly, and those are great, and that we can budget on those, which is amazing, the great thing, though, about the affiliate programs for you guys is you can still support us without really impacting your budget. You already get the stuff you're going to get anyways, but you can also still support us. And that's honestly why I like to mention that so much. All right, Heather, well, why don't we move on to the News Bite? That clip reminds me of Superman for some reason. All right, Heather, what is our first story in the News Bite?
Okay, we've got the Nobel Awards coming up here in a few weeks, and now they have what's called the ig-nobel Awards. It's kind of the first year that I really saw this, and it came to me because these are awards that are sort of, as they say it, intended to celebrate the unusual and honor the imaginative. Oh, okay. So kind of things that they say kind of make you laugh at first and then think. So one of them, the one that spotted, was called the speech jammer, which immediately I was like, disrupts a person's speech when they hear their own spoken words at a slight delay. I was like, really?
Well, that's true.
I know that. But this study showed that even a few 100 milliseconds.
Yeah, well,
make people stumble.
This is an area I have a lot of personal experience with, because depending on how I have the audio set up any given day, I sometimes am exposed to a little bit of delay, and sometimes it's just very slight. And oh boy, you have no idea how distracting that is until you've done it.
So that whole project was to kind of give a speaker idea of if they were going slow or over time, and so kind of stall them out like, oh, wait, I'm over time. I must slow down and wrap this up.
It takes a special kind of practice to tune stuff out.
Talk over that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I saw a video where they were kind of joking around. They had a hand gun, almost like a cop, checking your speed, and it kind of shine slided a professor, and it supposedly beaming his voice back at him, and he's stumbling, and it's like, you tired of class? Get out now. And I was like, oh my gosh.
That's great.
But they have some other things. For psychology, it was leaning to the left makes the Eiffel Tower seem smaller. So they had some people on Wii balance boards and leaning just slightly to the left or to the right, seeing how they perceived objects. So do they perceive them shorter or taller, and why? So kind of going through that.
Is this a way to generate buzz? Is that what this is?
Sort of. I mean, there are people who. Okay, so there's one that was, he started off because he saw ponytails swing side to side when women are jogging. And he's like, huh, I wonder why. Now, it ends up being this very complicated study of, thousands of strands of hair and how they bounce and go together. So there's all sorts of math
There's science
involved
there,
into it.
yeah.
Yeah, there is science in it. But some of this is, yes. I mean,
It's showy science.
yeah, it's showy science. Scientists like to be goofy, too.
All right.
We have a different kind of goofy.
All right.
I did think their award for literature was rather humorous. The
Ugh.
U.S. Government General Accountability Office issued a report about reports that recommends the preparation of a report about the reports about reports about reports. And I don't know if it was that bad, but there was a report about the reports that was kind of amusing.
That sounds about accurate, actually.
So, but it was various kind of crazy kooky things, and it's like, oh wait, that's funny. No, wait, actually, some of these, there was a town in Sweden where a chunk of the people's population, they move into new houses and their hair was turning green.
What?
Yeah, and they're like, okay, why are the people's hair turning green?
Why is that?
So they went through, and it turns out, I kind of wondered at first, it was the copper pipes.
I was going to call that. I was going to say it was copper pipes.
Yes, hot water in copper kind of activates it. And so when it sat in the, heated, and then, wash your hair in hot water, and it turns your hair green.
They should have just asked us. We could have told them.
Yep. And so it was like, now the people have two options. Wash your hair in cold water or buy an old house. Not new house, but old house. Because it was just the coatings that were different for these new houses. And I've had it in various pieces of equipment where I can, I'm running through a heat exchanger.
Oh, sure.
And there's some copper in there. And okay, here's my water sample. I'll come back the next morning. Green. I think I reached past its limit. Shake. Oh, no.
I learned it because my high school, the water would sometimes be green.
Oh.
Yeah, we had an old school, so it was kind of gross.
Yeah.
Kind of spooky.
Mine tasted like iron fillings.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Jeez. Well, should we talk about ancient galaxies? Or an ancient galaxy?
An ancient galaxy.
Yes.
So the combined power of the NASA Spitz and Hubble Space Telescopes, as well as a cosmic magnification effect.
The combined strength.
Yes, it has let astronomers spot what could be the most distant galaxy ever detected.
So we have spotted something so far away that's been beyond our grasp until we combine these two things.
Three things.
Three things. Okay,
yeah.
Wow.
So the Spitzer and Hubble working together would not be able to see this.
Okay.
Not by a long shot, except with something called gravitational lensing. Albert Einstein predicted it a century ago. It's that if you have a very, massive object between, say the doorknob and your eye. So you have a really massive object in between you. Mm-hmm. What could actually happen is the light from the reflecting off the doorknob could actually be bent around and you could still see it. And in fact, it would be magnified and brightened by about 15 times. So that's what happened here, is that there was a large galaxy in front of it and the light bent around it. So off to the side, you could see this red little blob, just tiny and barely there. And so that's been, being magnified 15 times brought it barely into view of the combined power of a couple of telescopes.
Wow.
And so this thing, when the light left this galaxy, when it was, when the universe was only 3.6% its current age. So it's right now it's 13.7 billion, and that we're looking at it when the universe was only 500 million. It's really, really small, 1% of the mass of the Milky Way. Now, what this does do is it actually confirms and supports some of our cosmological theories. So often we hear about things that go, huh.
Right.
My theory, we need to retweak you.
Yeah.
This one actually says yes.
Okay, good.
Thump fist on table.
Good.
This actually says we think theories were that the first galaxies would probably have been started off really tiny, then would have merged together into bigger and bigger objects. So this is very It's a very early, very tiny galaxy. So it kind of actually supports the ideas. And I hope that, they'll be able to, in the future, they'll be able to look and maybe find other things like this. Or with the James Webb Telescope, Hubble's quote-unquote replacement or next generation, whenever it should get up into the sky. Currently slated for 2018, but we shall see, hand-wavy. So that would actually be able to view things like this.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So that when we actually see these barely observable objects like this that have a lot of potential, it's like they get on like the top 10 list.
So in 2018, if everything were to go really super great, it goes up, and then maybe we see potentially some better pictures.
Yeah.
Huh. That's a long time to wait.
Well,
it'll go by pretty quick though.
Sometimes
2012. If it comes as fast as 2012 has gone by, it's not that far away.
Oh goodness.
Right? I mean, 2012 was booking, Heather. It's almost the end of this month.
Yeah, there should be some laws of physics that were broken.
This is our last episode of September.
Oh my goodness.
It's wild. It's wild. Our next episode will be in October.
Oh my goodness.
That's too soon. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, just kind of looking forward to if we spot other things like this that can hopefully confirm some theories. Even if they don't, that's fine too.
Hey, science likes a win, right?
In science, everything's a win.
Nice, Heather. Nice. 2-Byte News. Dun, dun, dun. 2-Byte News on SciByte here tonight on the 2-Byte News.
SciByte.
I ran out of steam that time. Last week I ran out of clip. This time I ran out of steam. All right, Heather, what is our first story in the 2-Byte News?
Alrighty, our friends in the UK and Scotland might have seen a giant
alien invasion.
Fireball. Oh. No, not alien invasion, actually. That might have made the international news. But this was a meteor seen Friday the 21st. It broke up. I've seen videos of this. I have some linked in the show notes where you could really see how it broke up into multiple different pieces. And they've got from different angles. So kind of one where it's coming straight at, and you can sort of see how it's breaking up into various pieces. And I saw one video like from the side. You could see really a trail.
Yeah, that one's great.
Of all these pieces. And though, of course, you see that, and you're like, huh.
That looks like an alien spacecraft, yeah.
No, not alien spacecraft. Some people thought it was spacecraft, not alien, more like human.
Well, okay. That's not as exciting, but still interesting.
No, but so astronomer came through, and they have a lot of people who are tracking large satellites, things of that nature, so kind of backtracked what speed it was, where it was, if it had all these different pieces, about, you had to backtrack rough mass of what it was. So kind of looking back and like, no, it wasn't anything that was orbiting. It was not man-made. So it was just a random meteor. You might remember earlier this year there was one over California.
Yeah.
In the US. So it's just one of those events where it's occasionally you get these. You get a handful of really bright fireballs every year.
Now, one of these videos has the patented iPhone vertical video framing. Yes. And so I think this other one might too. So both of these were taken with smartphones. And this is another, going back to the smartphone thing, this is another cool thing that, like, a few years ago, we wouldn't be sitting here looking at these videos because nobody would have these videos. Because not everybody had a portable video recorder in their pocket.
Yeah. Now, I do suggest, should you watch any of these videos, mute them. Especially if you're trying to show the science to, coworkers or underage people, because I have read that some of them may not have science-friendly language.
They were probably hooting and hollering, right?
Yeah, and not saying very nice science words.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
That's okay. The video is really all you need.
Yeah, as long as you mute it. Well, Heather, I have this funny little thing here, just sitting here flashing at me. It's just like, there I go. Okay, so this. I got to get this dot matrix printer replaced because it just takes forever to spit out. It says we have an update on a few things.
We do. I mentioned a week or two ago how the Jupiter impact. It happened, just a couple hours.
Right, the one caught with the webcam.
Yeah, the webcam, and then another observer. It came in added it like the day of the show, and so they've been actually able to view it. So they're able to watch. We were watching to wait as it came around the other side of Jupiter to see if there was a scar like Shoemaker-Levy or other large impactors do. They kind of leave a scar. This one did not. So kind of at the end of its science availability. Now, if it had left a scar, what that really means is that you can have telescopes look at it in the near infrared or in various spectroscopic analysis, and you can kind of see, because it pokes a hole in the cloud, and you can kind of sometimes get an idea of what the object was made of. So you can kind of guess, was it an asteroid? Was it a comet? So you can kind of see that. So because there weren't any indications early on that anything was really going on, they kind of had Hubble on standby. Kind of, just like, hey guys, just keep an ear open, but Hubble did not have to drop what it was doing and turn to look at Jupiter.
Now, refresh my memory. Were we contacted before or after last week's episode by one of the people that got that photo?
Not by the person, but somebody saw it and notified us before the show. That's how I saw.
Okay.
That's how I saw.
Very neat. That was a very interesting story. So folks should go back and check out SciByte 62 if they missed the origination of that. But somebody had a webcam hooked up to their telescope and actually just happened to be capturing footage of Jupiter and caught some really great impacts.
Yeah, it was, he set it up overnight, and then another observation came in and said, hey, I think I saw something. And so that guy went, I was recording Jupiter in my sleep. Let's go check that out.
I think we were just freaking out. Juke's coming in the chat room a little bit. Like, I'm unplugging my webcam. That's creepy. All right. Well, I need to get hyped up. Maybe it's time for a Red Bull, huh, Heather?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's what they want me to say when we talk about this next story.
Probably. So Bull Stratos, we've heard about them. They keep aiming towards that large leap of crazy science.
I've seen some photos, some stills.
So they now have a target date for their final jump. They're targeting for October 8th. So they've got
after next show.
Yeah. So they kind of got the approval for that time now. I would expect delays for weather, for last-minute technical issues. So often it's, T-minus 4 hours from launch, and then, oh, wait, this little fuse is not 100% happy. Let's stop.
Right.
Make sure everything's okay.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, it could go off.
They've been up there a lot already. Haven't they done test ones?
Yes, they've done tests. They just had one a couple months ago.
So it's not like it's the first time.
No, this is just the highest by far.
Right, the highest, and they're recording all of it.
Yes.
But they're not releasing it yet until it's some sort of dramatic fashion, right?
Yeah. Now, I believe during the event, they are actually going to webcast it.
Oh, cool.
They're going to webcast the attempt, so you can go over to their website, Bull Stratos, and watch it. They'll actually also have a contest where you can estimate where he's going to land. So there's a map, and there's a whole bunch of people with pins.
Okay.
You can say all right, I think he's going to go here. And in that case, a lot of science is your friend, because there's so much about as the wind at various levels.
Yeah. Okay. I see. They almost make it a game. Yeah. In fact, they even call it play. Okay. That's kind of fun. That's kind of neat.
So you can just randomly guess, or you can be as obsessive compulsive as you wish to go through and check out how fast the winds typically run that time of year, and as you get closer, how close to the event can you update, and do you have newer wind velocities, and which direction is it going at various levels of the atmosphere, and kind of calculate how he's going to go this way and that way. And hey, I've done balloon chasing stuff for instrumentation, so
you might have a shot at this then, Heather.
Oh goodness, no.
No, you don't think so?
I like the GPS.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, oh please, if you have GPS, then I'm like, please let us find it. Because it's going to be off in from Farmer's Field. And I've gone knocking up on doors. Tonk, tonk, tonk.
This is pretty clever.
Yeah. So they've got a whole bunch of different things that are going on. You've got, the hype that's been going on. Then you've got this where you can do it. And there's a handful of things that the 5 closest people are going to win some stuff that's going up with him. Or there's some actual things that you can win if you're the closest.
Yeah, one of them looked like a big fancy watch.
Yeah.
Which I haven't used a watch in a long time, but I know a lot of people like them quite a bit.
Yep.
Well, very cool. Well, you know what, Heather? We're just in time because I have a red flashing light right here on the old classic SciByte 2000, and let me...
oh, yeah?
Oh, look at that! See, I knew I kept the SciByte 2000 around. It's time for a spacecraft update.
It is the Space Shuttle program. So the Shuttle Endeavour made its final cross-country trip and has landed in California at LAX on the 21st.
Yes.
Now,
lots of great pictures.
Yes, there's 3,000,004 pictures and videos out there. If you were following my Twitter, you saw, me update and be all excited about the various days. And it got delayed for weather a few times. It got pushed back 2, maybe 3 days.
Yeah.
A solid 2 days it got pushed back because of weather along the Gulf Coast. So I was kind of watching online as often as I could. There was, almost like an FAA flight tracker for a short bit of it where you could actually watch the little dot move.
Neat.
But some of it they weren't. Some of it they were kind of keeping quiet as to where exactly they were at any one time if they weren't flying over cities. So there's quite a few iconic images of it, doing the flyovers. I did see, and I didn't get a chance to respond, there was some sort of government official. I don't recall who or what office. It was, not upper levels, but saying, hey, those flybys may be cool, but how much are they costing us? Now, actually,
oh, here we go.
If you listened, whoever took the shuttles had to pay. They paid for the, dismantling or, museumification of these. So you're taking out all the hazardous chemicals, making them safe to be near people, transporting them across the country. So it came up front, and they had like a huge price tag at first, and then they kind of reanalyzed and said, all right, now it's, I don't recall how much, but, so many millions of dollars that it was, a price tag you had to pay for just essentially shipping and handling charges.
Yeah. And
so,
if you think about this imagery will be looked at for forever.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is the obvious
historic value to this.
Historic value, and as it flew overhead, all the people, in Houston, or Mississippi, and all these different places it flew over were able to see it.
It's like achievement of humanity type historic significance. It's not like oh man, that 1956 Chevy is really a slick looking car. No, this is like look what humanity accomplished, and the monkeys actually got off the planet for a while and flew around, and this is the vehicle they did it in. So we should probably have pictures of that, and I think it's kind of worth it. Well,
yeah, and the fact that, I mean, it could just be transported straight, to and from, but it did a lot of fly. Dive down, fly around a couple of cities, fly around specific NASA locations, and landed in Ellington, and that was the question that he was saying.
Yeah, I thought the fly over the football games was a little exciting. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yeah, I don't know about football games, but there was cities that it would fly around and kind of stop for the people. And that's what they were like, yeah, so everyone gets to look. But no, it was actually the, in this case, the museum in California who purchased it. So there's lots of technical ways to say it, but essentially I look at it as shipping and handling charges.
Yeah. Well, very, very interesting stuff. And it's been very fun in a way. It's been very, not fun, but it's been nice.
Yeah, my Twitter kind of exploded off and on, and I was like, it's the closing of a chapter. Yeah. Opening of another one.
Right.
In a sad, very disjointed, trying to be hopeful voice. So hopefully we shall move on, and hopefully that seeing the shuttles, lots of little kids going through museums, will be inspired.
Well, I have something to pick us up. It's an incoming communications.
Yeah.
Now, you can reach the show SciByte at jupiterbroadcasting.com, or you can always tweet something at Heather or JB_Mars_base on Twitter. Yes. All right. Yes. So, what's the feedback?
So, I had a couple of people point out to me. Some people on Twitter, hey, this Alcubierre, the warp drive thing, where it's,
I saw that.
I talked about it last year. And, it came up in the news. I'm like, oh, whatever. So I kind of wrote it off right at first.
Because you're like, we've talked about this. SciByte's been, this is funny. SciByte really does get way ahead of the mainstream media.
Okay, so not ahead, that badly, but sometimes it'll pop up where it's like, oh my gosh,
we think we've talked about it because we talked about this already. We must have, right? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I do that with the other shows too sometimes.
So I was like, well, it must nothing significantly new. So then enough people kind of said, hey, look.
No, I figured it was something new. Yeah, it had to have been, right? Because there was a big enough stink.
Yeah. Well, I was eyes deep in other science. So I actually looked, and what it is so the whole idea behind it is to literally warp space and time around a ship. So it's sort of contracting space-time in front of you and expanding it behind you. So it's kind of shuffling you forward. So think of a trampoline, and you have a ball. You want to get it from one end of the trampoline to the other. So you have, some sticks, and you push down on the trampoline in front of it and push up and behind it. So you're kind of warping space around it.
Now, is this something they've demonstrated?
Oh, goodness, no. This is all theoretical. So this is the whole idea of how you could get around going faster than light travel, because your ship would be sitting in this little bubble of space-time that's really not doing much.
Are you screwing with me?
No, I'm totally not. This is
They're
real.
Seriously taking. I mean, I'm not trying to be that guy, but I mean, Star Trek.
You're that guy, but yes.
Star Trek literally made this up 40 years ago.
So they're coming up with science that kind of shows that it could be sort of possible.
There's been quite a few things that Star Trek thought of that then later on science has been like, yeah, we think we could do transporters. Yeah, we have communicators now. Yeah, we have pads. It's like one of those things where
you read something really cool, or you see something, you're like, we could so do that. If I just catch up on the science.
Do you wonder if the thought got planted in people's brains and they just kept sciencing it until they found it?
Well, you have to assume that that's part of it. What made it sort of write off so much was that the energy required to sort of morph space and time around you was just ridiculously.
So that's why Star Trek came up with antimatter.
Yeah, but now they're kind of going back and saying that depending on how you did it, if you had a spaceship, if you had a donut of a shaped ring around you as opposed to a flat ring, just the configuration of what's going on around you, that it could reduce the energy required by significant amounts. They actually say that these calculations say that they keep calling it warp drive, but the warp drive could be powered by a mass about the size of Voyager 1. So the new thing was that they had... Yes. I love how this comes back. But it's sort of... The whole idea is that the hand-wavy math behind it. Now, I know for certain that there are much smarter people than me that will think completely one side or the other and think me insane for saying no matter what I say. But so that this is new calculations suggest that it's not going to require as much energy depending on how you tweak the system, which is seems kind of obvious. So they're thinking that hopefully maybe should they be able to tweak things more, maybe it'll be even less energy. And they've begun experimenting with mini versions in a laboratory.
Oh, really? So they're trying to do some sort of testing.
They are trying. So it's still just kind of out there, but it is less out there than it was before. So it kind of makes it more in the realms of sort of kind of possible. If I can be as hand-wavy as even more than science can be sometimes. I
gotta tell you, I don't know, my brain is sort of spinning. I don't quite know what to make of this because you talk about how they're talking about maybe they need some sort of spherical type warp field, so that way it would require less power. And I mean, the thing that's kind of funny about that is there was specifically an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where they converted their warp field to more of a spherical type warp field, and they traveled much farther using less power. I mean, that's just pretty wild.
Yes. Yeah, one of the stories was talking about that. Another one was talking about, if spinning, if they started spinning, could you change it? Then it was, Contact, that movie about talking to aliens and transporting through space and time. And so there's always kind of things where you see similar things in science fiction.
Yeah.
Now science is catching up that somewhere in science fiction a lot of actual science happened just by pure coincidence or because science is doing a lot of things now.
Some smart people thought stuff through. And now I'm gonna, I'm just gonna chalk it up all to that. I'm just going to get really upset if you come on in a future episode and tell me that they think the way they can harness these warp fields is by channeling them through some type of crystal. And then I'm going to get upset.
Okay.
If you start talking about dilithium around here, I don't know what I'm
we're not going to call it dilithium because dilithium is actually something, but not going to be used for this.
Right.
And no matter what they call it, I'll I don't know.
Yeah.
The crystal that shall not be named.
Well, that's fine. That's fine with me.
We'll figure something out.
All right, Heather, what do you say we swing by Mars and we do a Curiosity update?
And liftoff of the Atlas V with Curiosity.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
We're still on Mars. So what's going on?
Oh, yes. So the vehicle instrument checkouts they continue. They're almost done.
Okay.
So one of the things they're able to do actually is they're actually able to time it. So they took images of Mars's moon, Phobos, as it passed in front of the sun.
Oh, now you got me. That's cool.
Yep, there's a picture in the show notes about that, so you can kind of click on and see. It's like a little black dot in front of the sun, and it's interesting because one of the moons, I believe Deimos actually, they don't have good orbital information on.
Oh, really? So now they can kind of...
So this is Phobos. This is the one that's much larger and able to, analyze it and kind of predict where it was going to be. But it was kind of interesting that they're able to do that. And the big happy science moment this week was they were actually able to contact a rock. They were able to reach out and touch a rock.
They made contact with a rock. Okay, that's exciting. I mean, that is awesome. It's our first rock, isn't it?
Yes, it is the first rock that they've actually touched and started to do science on. So.
Now, was there a creature under that rock?
No.
Okay. All right.
No, not really.
No, okay, that's fine.
It's okay. So they were, it was you can see in the videos named Jacob Medovich.
Yeah, they named it after him.
Yep, he was a chief engineer, surface operations chief engineer for this one. He worked on Curiosity, for Sojourner, for Spirit, for Opportunity. He worked on a lot of these different things. Passed away right after Curiosity landed. But so it was named after him. But this is a target rock. They kind of saw it's a pyramid-shaped rock. They were able to reach out, take some images of it. So they're able to take the Mars Hand Lens Imager, take some pictures at 10 inches, at 2 inches, at 1 inch, kind of as it got closer and closer. They kind of cropped those images, together so you can see in high detail, so as they get closer and closer. They were also, one of the major goals for analyzing this rock is to cross-calibrate two of the instruments. You have the alpha particle X-ray spectrometer. So that's where you go out and you get a little bit of sample and you dump it in, and it's able to shoot X-rays through it and kind of how everything bounces. They're able to read from the diffraction what would be in that sample. And they've also got the ChemCam. So that's the one where the laser shoots out, vaporizes a little bit of rock, and they're able to take the spectrometry from that. So they're able to kind of go at this both directions and say, all right, we know what this rock says from this instrument, and kind of see how the calibrations between the two are. So after we finish doing all the science on this rock and everything's calibrated and they feel like we
got our science hands all over this rock.
Yeah. all the science is happier. We can start trucking on to the kind of the areas that we're looking to more closely examine. So this is kind of a close by rock that was good to vaguely close so that you can get all these instruments done, and it's kind of in the right place where all the arm testing is pretty much complete so that we know all the instruments work. Now we can go over and we can start using them and see how they're actually working.
It's kind of like marking your territory. You just kind of like a dog. You go up there, sniff some rocks. You letting Mars know who's boss.
Science can facepalm, apparently.
All right, Heather.
I've discovered this.
Why don't we jump in the time machine? Because I believe. Ooh. Close, keep it close, keep it. Don't leave. No. Oh, man, yeah. No, I got these lights installed in here. They're new. You like them? Very nice, right?
I could see how close I was to falling out.
I know. Well, that's why I put them in there. So this trip this week takes us to 150 years ago, September 28th, 1858. What happened this week in science, Heather?
Donati's comet became the first to be photographed.
Oh.
So what's commonly thought of as the first photograph, as common as people think of first photographs of comets go, was in 1880s. So like 30 years later. But this is actually sort of a recovered. They found an older photograph, and there's some paintings and images of this.
Yeah, I've seen what look like paintings.
Yeah. So it's a big comet and it has a huge curving tail and like two shooting off spikes, it looks like. And what it is it's two different tails. There are dust trails and there are gas tails. So it's kind of weird. Sometimes you'll see comets with these different things. A gas tail is generally thinner, smaller. That is where the solar wind is blowing, hits the comet, and it kind of is boiling off, or it's creating a trail behind it. Now, as the comet moves through the solar system, it's leaving behind a dust trail. Mm-hmm. So this, think, on a rough scale, kid walking across the room trying to eat a cookie. There's crumbs of cookies in one direction, and there's a shadow in another. So you've got the, from the sun, or from the, the light source you see where, what's happening there, and you also see a trail of dust behind it. So this was a case where it was spectacularly different. The image that they found, actually, it was kind of odd that they went the next night in the observations, and there was like really nothing. It was not, the observations weren't very good. So it was just like this one glass film that they were able to catch this on. But a comet was pictured. Now let us wait for the next great comet, and you will definitely hear about it.
There you go. There you go, right here on SciByte. Now, why don't we recalibrate the SciByte computer and look up into the sky this week?
That's right. Saturday, September the 29th, we've got Harvest Moon, which is the full moon closest to the fall equinox. And a lot of people may know it's because Harvest Moon means that the moon was really bright at night and you could continue harvesting and could not use the excuse that the sun went down and it's bedtime. You had to work right through the night, or as long as the moon was up.
It's always really cool looking too.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna look pretty full for quite a few nights, 3 or 4 nights where it's gonna be. It may be technically full for all of those nights, or pretty close. So
I plan to tell Dylan. I plan to tell Dylan the moon is crashing into the earth.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay, all right, okay. I won't, but it's just not even for a few minutes.
What I tell you is going to change your mind.
Well, I mean, what if it goes horribly? Then you could see. Then I won't do it. No, you made me rethink it, Heather. I'm rethinking it already.
Just think. Because the moon could be jumping out from under his bed at 3 a.m.
Oh yeah, see, and that would see. This is why I had to work this out with you. I'm glad you brought that up, because what if I didn't get a good night's sleep because of that?
Science saved you. Okay, we do have a couple of planets visible this week. Venus, about 2 hours before dawn, is going to rise in the east to northeast, and by dawn it'll be high in the eastern sky. We've got Mars in the evenings, low in the southwest, and to its left and upper left, depending on which night you look, is going to be an orange star and Ceres. So the lower one is Mars, because it's more down to Earth. I don't know, but there's 2 orange-red things over there in the southwest. The lower one is Mars. And, of course, another planet that it seems to be pretty cool, Jupiter. About 10-11 p.m. It's going to be rising in the east-northeast. And by dawn, it's going to actually start lining up with a couple of stars. It'll kind of be a nice row. Kind of a pretty thing to look at dawn. So we got a couple of planets here to look at this week.
We got a rockin' sky. And, of course, everything everything Heather covered is in the show notes, but specifically this section is all outlined out there. So if Heather said something that stuck with you, but you didn't remember all the details, you can always go back there and check it out, and then you'll know what you see when you're looking up in the sky. Very cool. All right, Heather. Well, I think that's the whole show right there, isn't it?
I think that is.
Well, now, thank you very much to our chat room. Folks, we do film this episode in front of a live internet audience. The chat room is a big part of our show. They're displayed up there. They are the stars of our show. And so we always encourage you guys to join us live. And we do this show Tuesdays. Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. And you know what? I'm a bad person. I was going to get the times for East Coast and UTC. I apologize. You know what I can tell you right now, actually? I can tell you right now. On the East Coast, that's 10:30 p.m. And jeez, if you're in the UK, in London, it's like 3 a.m. So I don't really think you're. But in Australia, it's noon. So if you're in Australia and you would like to join us live, and in Dublin,
know what to do for your lunch break.
Dublin is in the same situation London is. So yeah. But if you're in Sydney, you should totally tune in during your lunch.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. All right, Heather. Well, thank you very much for a great show this week, and thank you, chat room, for hanging out with us, and hope you folks can join us next week. Heather, where can people follow you? You're over on Twitter as JB_Mars_base.
JB_Mars_base.
We must have a link in the show notes, right?
Yes.
All right, there you go. You guys can find it there if you want to catch up with Heather throughout the week on Twitter, or you can email the show, SciByte@JupiterBroadcasting.com. You can find me on Twitter. I am twitter.com/ChrisLES. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of SciByte. See you right back here next week.